Okay, let's dive right in. We are tackling, well, probably the biggest questions there are today.
The really big ones.
Yeah, where did we come from? How did any of this happen? How did you, listening right now, end up here thinking about it?
These are absolutely fundamental questions, They've driven human curiosity forever. Science, philosophy, religion, everyone's asking.
For sure. And for this deep dive, we've really waded into a lot of material, research papers, articles, philosophical bits, all looking at these origins.
Right, from the very beginning of the universe, like the absolute start.
To that first spark of life, and then eventually somehow,
Yeah.
us, conscious beings.
And our goal here, really, is to pull out the most fascinating pieces from these sources. The core concepts, maybe some surprising facts, and definitely the big ongoing mysteries.
We want to help make sense of this huge, huge picture, like tracing that line from the first instant of creation all the way to, well, to right now.
It's a staggering scope. Billions of years, ideas that can really make your head spin.
So yeah, buckle up. Let's try and unpack this.
What's interesting is how the sources pretty much all start at the absolute beginning, cosmic beginnings.
They go straight for the Big Bang Theory, not just mentioning it, but presenting it as like the main scientific story we have.
Yeah, the standard model. And that story says the universe kicked off about, 13.8 billion years ago.
Right.
And it wasn't an explosion in space, that's the key thing. It was the event where everything matters, energy, space itself, even time just sprang into existence.
From this incredibly tiny, hot, dense point.
Wait, and
a tiny fraction of a second.
Exactly. And from that moment, it's just been expanding. Still is expanding today, actually. Getting bigger all the time.
Okay, that part seems, well, maybe not simple, but established science.
But then, almost immediately, the sources bring up this first major puzzle, the fine-tuning problem.
Ah, right. This is where it gets really weird.
Yeah, they detail how these fundamental constants of nature, things like gravity strength or the charge on an electron, the cosmological constant, these numbers seem incredibly precisely set, almost dialed in.
And the implication is huge, isn't it? Because the sources emphasize, if you treat those numbers even a tiny, just a fraction, the whole universe would fall apart. Like stars wouldn't form, atoms couldn't hold together, basic chemistry wouldn't work.
Forget life. You wouldn't even have stable structures.
So this precision leads straight into a big debate they cover.
A really fundamental one. Does this incredible fine-tuning, this apparent calibration, point towards some kind of intentional design? Or an underlying structure we don't understand yet?
Or is it the other option?
Or is it just that we happen to be living in the one universe, maybe out of a huge multiverse of possibilities where the numbers just happen to line up right for life to evolve and, well, notice?
Cosmic lottery versus cosmic purpose. That seems to be the crux of it.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so universe appears, expands, seems maybe suspiciously well suited for stuff to happen.
Yeah.
Which logically brings us to the next massive leap. Life itself.
Mm-hmm.
How did non-living chemicals become alive?
Abiogenesis. Yeah, the sources definitely tackle this. The main hypothesis explored is that life emerged naturally from non-living matter on the early Earth.
Sometime between like 3.5 and 4 billion years ago. In that primordial soup we hear about.
That's the time frame, yeah. And the primordial soup idea is part of it. They do mention experiments that show it's plausible, at least for the first steps, like Miller-Urey.
Oh yeah, the lightning experiment.
Right. Zap some primitive gases, get amino acids, the basic building blocks of proteins, so it shows you can get the bricks sort of easily.
And this is the point the sources really hammer home.
Yeah.
Getting the bricks is one thing.
It's a whole different ballgame, going from those simple organic molecules, amino acids, fatty acids, whatever, to something that actually lives, something that replicates itself, has metabolism, evolves.
That transition. It's described as just this massive, maybe the biggest unanswered question in biology. How did chemistry get organized?
Exactly. And a huge part of that puzzle, which the material focuses on, is DNA.
The code of life.
Right. Discovering DNA showed that life isn't just complicated chemistry, it's fundamentally about information. Coded instructions. It uses this 4-letter alphabet, A, T, C, G.
And this raises, well, a seriously tough question highlighted in the texts. How does a system like that, a complex, information-rich code, plus the machinery to read and copy it, just emerge from random chemistry.
Yeah, it feels different, doesn't it? Not just assembling parts, but getting the parts to write their own blueprint and build the factory spontaneously.
It's the information aspect, not just the physical stuff. That seems to be a deep challenge.
A very deep challenge. But, okay, assuming life did start somehow, the sources then move on to the journey it took. Evolution.
Darwin time. Natural selection takes the wheel.
Pretty much. The texts explain how, over these vast stretches of time, billions of years, those simple early life forms branched out, diversified, adapted, leading to everything we see today, including us.
Through variation, competition, passing on traits that work, generation after generation.
It's an incredibly powerful explanation for the diversity and history of life, no doubt about it. But even here, the sources point out something they frame as a kind of anomaly.
The human brain.
The human brain. They note that while evolution usually favors traits for immediate survival, finding mates, that kind of thing, the leap in human cognitive abilities seems almost excessive.
Yeah, like, why did we get so good at abstract thought, complex language, art, morality, thinking about ourselves, planning way ahead? Was all that strictly necessary for survival back on the savannah?
That's the debate presented. Was this explosion of mental power just a really, really effective evolutionary advantage, making us better hunters, communicators, tool users?
Or does the very nature of our consciousness, our self-awareness, maybe hint at something more, something unique about our trajectory?
It's posed as an open question in the material.
And thinking about that uniqueness, that improbability, leads right into the odds, the sheer statistics of it all. The sources really dig into how incredibly unlikely our existence seems.
They really stack up the factors. First, you need a planet like Earth, not just any planet.
Right. Goldilocks zone, stable star, liquid water, magnetic shield, the right atmosphere. Even a big moon seems important for stabilizing our tilt.
Check, check, check. Then you need life to actually start from non-life. That massive unknown step we just talked about.
Okay, another huge hurdle.
Then this incredibly long, winding, complex path of evolution over billions of years, countless potential dead ends.
And then the specific genetic tweaks, the mutations that led specifically to Homo sapiens with our particular set of cognitive skills.
When you multiply all those probabilities together, well, the sources use phrases like astronomically low. The odds against intelligent life like us arising by pure chance look staggering.
Which is where they bring in the anthropic principle.
Exactly. It's a fascinating kind of philosophical counterpoint. The idea being, maybe the reason the universe seems so perfectly set up for us
is simply because if it wasn't, we wouldn't be here to notice it.
That's the core of it. We can only observe a universe that's compatible with our own existence.
It feels a bit circular, maybe.
It can feel that way, but the interpretations discussed are key. Does it just mean we're incredibly lucky beneficiaries of a random cosmic draw? The observers who happen to evolve in the one universe out of potentially countless others where the conditions were right?
Or does the very fact that a universe capable of producing observers like us exists, does that itself imply something deeper? Some underlying principle or reason why observer-compatible universes are favored or even necessary?
Back to that chance versus purpose tension again. It keeps cropping up.
Yeah, it really does. And thinking about purpose, or the lack of it, naturally brings us to meaning. The sources look at this from different angles, philosophical and spiritual.
Right. On the philosophical side, they mention existentialism thinkers like Sartre, Camus.
Their core idea being what? Existence comes first.
Existence precedes essence, yeah. Meaning isn't handed to us. It's not baked into the universe or our origins.
So, in that view, how we got here isn't the main point. It's about what we do now, how we create our own meaning through choices, actions, commitments.
Exactly. Purpose is something we build, not something we discover already waiting for us.
Which contrasts pretty sharply with a lot of spiritual or religious views.
It does, and the sources touch on this respectfully, pointing out that pretty much every culture throughout history has developed creation stories.
They mention Genesis in the Bible, Hindu cosmology, lots of examples.
And these narratives often do propose a divine origin, an inherent purpose, a framework for morality and meaning, even if they clash with scientific accounts of how things happened.
They provide answers to the why, right? And offer comfort, community, a sense of place in the cosmos for billions of people. The sources present this as a fundamental human way of grappling with origins, separate from the scientific inquiry.
A very important aspect of the human experience, certainly.
Okay, stepping back into the scientific arena. If life did manage to get started here, against the odds, then the next obvious question is
it just here? Or is it everywhere?
the Fermi paradox. Where is everybody?
Yeah, the sources bring this up. It's a great question. Billions, maybe trillions of planets out there. If life isn't that hard to start, or intelligence isn't that rare an evolutionary outcome, why the silence?
Where are all the alien civilizations?
The potential answers explored are varied. Maybe intelligent life is incredibly rare, supporting those long odds we talked about.
Or maybe civilizations pop up, but they don't last long. They blow themselves up or something.
That's one grim possibility. Or maybe they are out there, but space is vast and we're just not detecting them, looking the wrong way, using the wrong methods. Or maybe they know we're here and just don't want to talk.
Who knows? They mentioned SETI, searching for signals, and even the recent buzz around UAPs and new telescopes like James Webb. The search continues.
And the implication is finding any life elsewhere, even microbes on Mars or Europa.
Would be revolutionary. It would change everything about how we see our own origins, wouldn't it? Are we a fluke or a common outcome?
Precisely. But the sources also float some more unconventional ideas about origins.
Beyond just Earth-based abiogenesis.
Yeah, like the simulation hypothesis.
Ah, the Matrix idea.
Yeah.
Are we living in a giant computer game?
Kind of. Philosophers like Nick Bostrom have seriously explored this. The argument is statistical, really.
How so?
Well, if it becomes possible for advanced civilizations to create highly realistic simulations with conscious beings inside,
Okay, big if, but go on.
and if they tend to run many, many such simulations, then statistically, it becomes far more likely that we are living inside one of those simulations than in the one original base reality.
Huh. That's a mind bender. So our origin wouldn't be the Big Bang, it'd be someone booting up a program.
In that scenario, yeah, it shifts the whole question.
And the other alternative mentioned, panspermia.
Right. This is the idea that life didn't necessarily start on Earth. Maybe it started somewhere else in the cosmos.
Hitched a ride here.
Exactly. On comets, meteorites, interstellar dust, the basic building blocks, or even simple microbes, could potentially survive space travel and seed a suitable planet like early Earth.
So abiogenesis still happened, just not here.
It just relocates the problem, essentially, but it's another possibility considered.
Wow. Okay, so cosmic origins, biological origins, probabilities, aliens, simulations. But cutting through all of this, the sources seem to keep returning to one particularly thorny issue.
Consciousness.
Yeah, our own subjective awareness. What is this feeling of being me?
It's highlighted as perhaps the ultimate mystery. Despite huge advances in neuroscience, psychology, physics, we still don't have a solid scientific theory that fully explains subjective experience.
Why does it feel like something to be alive, to see red, to feel joy, to have a sense of self?
And the core question posed is consciousness just something that complex brains do, an emergent property of enough neurons firing in the right way?
Or is it something more fundamental?
Yeah.
Could consciousness be a basic ingredient of the universe itself, maybe like space or time or mass energy?
That's getting into pretty deep territory. The sources even briefly mention highly speculative ideas like quantum consciousness.
Tying consciousness to quantum physics.
Yeah, suggesting quantum effects in the brain might be involved. It's way out there, not mainstream science, but it shows how people are trying to connect our inner world to the fundamental workings of reality.
It's a huge puzzle.
Yeah.
So trying to pull these threads together, chance, design, these mysteries, the sources talk about emergence, right?
Yes. Emergence from complexity, drawing on ideas from chaos theory and complexity science.
Which show how intricate patterns like snowflakes or ecosystems or neural networks can arise spontaneously from relatively simple rules without needing a master plan.
Order from chaos, basically. Complex systems self-organizing.
And the question raised then is, could human life, consciousness and all, be an emergent property of the universe? Not purely random, maybe not explicitly designed, but somehow an almost inevitable outcome, given the right conditions and enough time.
It's another way to frame it. Something complex arising naturally from simpler beginnings, following the universe's laws.
Which kind of brings us back in a way to that debate about design versus random mutation driving evolution.
It does circle back. The sources present this ongoing discussion are the known mechanisms of evolution, random mutation plus natural selection, sufficient to explain all the complexity we see in life.
Or, as proponents of intelligent design argue, are some systems just too complex, too information-rich, to have risen solely by chance? Do they seem to require some kind of guiding intelligence?
It's presented as a debate, highlighting the different viewpoints found in the material without definitively siding with one or the other, just acknowledging that this tension exists.
Okay, so After this incredible journey, Big Bang, life, evolution, consciousness, all these different perspectives,
Yeah.
where do the sources leave us? What are the final takeaways?
Well, a big one is humility, I think. They really emphasize how much we don't know for sure. We might never get a final, definitive answer on whether we're a cosmic accident or part of a plan.
The ultimate mystery might remain mysterious.
It might. But they also affirm what we can see, what we do experience. Our existence, however it came about, seems incredibly rare and valuable based on everything we currently understand.
And it's still fundamentally unexplained, really.
Fundamentally. And interestingly, whether someone leans towards scientific chance or philosophical self-creation or spiritual purpose, the sources point out we all share this common ground.
We're here, we're aware, we're asking these questions.
We have this capacity for curiosity, for imagination, for connection, for seeking truth. That seems to be a universal human experience, regardless of belief about origins.
It is pretty amazing when you stop and think about it, just being here, able to have this conversation.
Absolutely.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, it really makes you reflect, doesn't it? Why does thinking about these ultimate origins even matter to us, to you listening?
I think it has to matter. Because how we understand our origins inevitably shapes how we understand ourselves, our value, what we think our lives are about.
Yeah. The sources seem to conclude that scientifically, our existence looks like a long shot, but maybe not impossible. Philosophically or spiritually, it's seen as deeply profound.
And maybe the most relatable takeaway from that simple human perspective the material offers is this kind of call to action.
Which is?
To appreciate this improbable gift of life, to keep seeking knowledge, keep asking questions, and maybe most importantly, to connect with each other in this shared, strange, wonderful reality we find ourselves in.
Which leaves us with that final thought they offered, something to chew on.
Yeah, that whether it was all blind chance or unfolding purpose or something else we can't even conceive of.
The fact remains, we are here.
We are here, and maybe, just maybe, the simple fact that we exist and can ponder it all, perhaps that is the real miracle, the ultimate mystery worth cherishing.